Audrey, your character, has undergone a lot of development, and during the first season, she was very much a sassy action hero. And a lot of the energy that she generated on screen was, or that you generated on screen was, it was just incredibly external, and it was very hyper. But this season, you seemed a little bit more internal and more intense, and the energy was quieter, yet is a little bit stronger. So I just wanted you to talk to more about how you've been handling Audrey and the shift from how she was during season one to how she is now.
Well, I think it's a direct result of her world shifting a whole another level. And what I mean by that is the rug really got pulled out from under her when she discovered that she might not even be who she is. I mean, in my world, if somebody told me that you're not really Emily Rose and everything that you remember might not even be true and you may not even know who you are, I think I'd like hole up in my house for a bit. So my thoughts is always it's how do you keep Audrey active and how do you keep her going, and she does that by, helping people and helping people through what they're dealing with. I feel like that kind of then calls, though, at the same time, for a downshifting, as you'd speak. I think the first season she was all about, answers and figuring out who, if she came from this place and if her mom and her, was from this place, and those kind of questions that kind of caused her to be, heavy on the heels of investigating and whatnot. But I think that this season has been more about, who am I? And that kind of causes a quiet centering. Granted, she still needs to, try to figure out the trouble of the week, but I think that kind of causes her, in terms of herself, to kind of, really look into every possible aspect. And I think it's also kind of shocking at the same time, because if she's not Audrey, then who is she? So I think that's what is a result of that information.
Yeah, and I do think that your portrayal as well of how you did it. I mean, again, the first season it was very external, it was very physical, and this season I just like, again, the quiet intensity and the turning inwards.
Thanks.
But yeah, as you say, that is again in reflection of how they're changing the character.
Yeah.
But and also another thing, it's just I wanted you to talk more to the overall shift of Haven itself, just because first season it started off as Needful Things meets X-Files, and it was very much this eerie, creepy town, but it was also a very warm ending, or you'd find some type of pseudo-warm ending, even if you're taping someone within their house. But the second season, it's getting slightly darker, but also the resolutions aren't as happy, and it's becoming more conflicted and more intense, and I like that. But can you talk more to the shift between the seasons, and also will season 3 continue to ramp up and increase this intensity, or do you think it'll slow down a bit? Because I was actually amazed at what they did this season.
Well, I think that it's a mixture of a business decision and television in general, what you need to do with audiences, mixed with also what the characters are going through. And what I mean by that is, the first season is all about trying to gain an audience and trying to get people to just like you and enjoy the characters and enjoy the story and want to stay a while. So I think that it's sort of like a relationship. You sort of, you're not necessarily, when you just get to know somebody, go into the deep, dark stuff right away. You're kind of like, oh my gosh, isn't it so fun to hang out together and look at all the fun things we can do, and I think that's kind of like a lot of what the first season was. It's just like, oh my gosh, look at all these cool, quirky characters, and let's get to know them. And like, oh my goodness, I like them. Then once you like somebody and you really enjoy them and you trust them and you feel safe around them, you feel able to kind of go into the deeper, darker things in life because you have their trust and you know that they'll stick around. And I think that's what we can do with our audience. It's like, okay, now that you like these characters and now that you like and understand the world in which they live, we're going to take you to some deeper places with them, and we're going to stay a bit longer and talk about some more serious things. And I think that everybody craves that in a relationship, and I think as an audience, that's what, we crave, to get to know these people more and to really see, the journey emotionally of what they're dealing with. So I think that's kind of, what we do. And then obviously from a business model, it's just wanting to step it up, wanting to hit home a little bit harder and wanting to be a bit riskier and a bit artsier and, things like that initially you're just trying to garnish a fan base. So it's been really neat because I really feel like as the show has gone deeper, obviously more fans have stuck around, and we've kind of really anchored our fan base, which we're so thankful for them because they're the reason we're back on the air every year, and why we're coming back next year. So it's really exciting to think of what, you know, the third year of our dating relationship will look like.
Hopefully not divorce. But I do think, I mean, again, you guys could have seriously dined off on the eerie, creepy mysteries for just a couple more seasons. And the fact that second season, the writers just dove right in, just made it darker, and started to shift over to this war zone, and then also amped up your relationship with Nathan. And just, I really liked it, just because some shows are a little bit more hesitant. Once they get that touchy-feely vibe and they know the audience is into it, they're going to stay there. And I like that.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's a reflection, though, of Lucas and me and Eric, and as well as Sam and Jim. I know that the three of us fight for grittier material. We like darker things. We like things that are, you know, we're fine with, you know, making a Lifetime movie every once in a while, but we'd really like to, you know, do television that we would watch and sit down with our friends and be wowed by. So I think that's kind of a, you know, also a testament to what kind of television we would like to watch, and we're really thankful that sci-fi has been allowed us to be a little bit riskier in that way.
Yeah, definitely, and I hope that continues. And another thing that I really liked about this season is just the intimacy between the cast. And I know that other people have probably commented on this, but I like how more comfortable and seated everyone seems in their characters, and it's just relaxed, and it just comes across. And there's this great scene towards episode 12, and I believe that's business as usual, and it's the final scene, and you and Duke are sitting together, you're reading his father's journal, and there's just this casual closeness, which I absolutely loved between the two of you. And then at the same time, of course, oh no, you're the anti-me, what do we do about this? So of course there's the separation, but the discomfort, yet the same comfort. So I guess I wanted you to talk more to just the cast growing more cohesive as a unit this year and how that comes across on screen.
Well, it naturally falls into place. You know, our television show goes through a natural progression of relationships in terms of us, you know, first season is us figuring each other out and trusting each other and getting to know each other and learning how to work. And then, of course, coming back is a bit of a homecoming, and you feel naturally comfortable, and the scenes, I think, benefit from that. I have to credit that scene to the director, Sean Piller, who's our executive producer on the show, because I was a little hesitant about being that close to Eric because, you know, I just learned this stuff about, you know, his father, and I had just met with Lucy, and I've been through this kind of rigmarole with my own story, and I was like, why am I just all buddy-buddy with him all of a sudden about this information, and I don't really want to be close to him, but he explained to me that it's kind of a testament of our relationship that we kind of go through hell and back a lot, and so it's kind of like we need here we are together, and the juxtaposition of what would happen when we find out that information will really read really well, and I'm glad that it did, because it is a very interesting sort of, you know, it's kind of funny. It's like Nathan and Audrey have a sort of awkward moment like that earlier when they're working on a case together, and they're kind of side by side in this closeness sort of after the kisses happened, and it's kind of, you know, a weird feeling for them. This kind of mirrors that just on a different level. And I think it's true. It's like, you know, we're kind of hunkering down trying to figure, you know, us against the world together, and then what happens when we're presented with this information that that may be a game changer in our relationship, and how do these two people that are close, I mean, physically that's what it's representing, these two people that are close, how does this division affect them? And I think it gets shown really beautifully in the way that scene was shot.
I mean, definitely. And another thing that I speak to, you also brought up the Nathan and Audrey and just the awkwardness between you. And just another scene that I really liked was in the final two episodes, and I believe this was in the finale, and it wasn't the kiss, but it's when you're trying to determine what's going to happen after the date. And I loved that unspoken tension where you've got this nonverbal communication. You're talking about what you're going to do, but not do. And I love that. So how did you go about deciding how you're going to play that out?
I think one of my favorite characteristics of Audrey is I just feel like she's kind of like a walking awkward moment. I don't really feel like she ever was really I mean, it's a little sad. I mean, maybe somebody did take her aside, but because of her history with growing up in the foster homes and her history of, you know, kind of being a lone ranger, she's not necessarily the most socially, you know, aware person. And I think that, you know, in terms of relationships and building relationships with people, she doesn't really know how to do that. Oddly